The Harm Reduction Division started with the opening of the Gladys Ray Shelter 15 years ago. The Gladys Ray Shelter was a direct result of Fargo's 10-year plan to end homelessness. A number of people, many different leaders throughout the community had formed a group to really take a look at who was being served well in our community and who wasn't when it comes to people that didn't have a place to live. We were seeing people freeze to death in our community nearly every winter prior to the opening of that shelter because there wasn't a place for them to go. After the Gladys Ray opened, we eventually took on the Veterans Drop-In Center in partnership with the VA and continued to grow from there. Eventually, we became responsible for the Withdrawal Management Center and worked with community partners to get some legislation changed so that we could open a few other programs such as the syringe service program. We work really hard in every one of our programs to try to decrease the risk or to decrease the adverse consequences associated with what could be really risky behavior.
Harm reduction is really a philosophy and a practice. And how I like to think about harm reduction is that we help create an environment where people in our community have access to a different choice. We work with people who experience a lot of vulnerabilities. A lot of times they're homeless and unsheltered, they're struggling with some mental illness or substance use issues. And I believe that the vast majority of people in our community do the best they can given their situation and the resources available to them. So how do we help encourage or create an environment where people can make a different choice and maybe even a healthier choice?
Sometimes when things feel really, really chaotic, systems tend to want to control that chaos and they create various policies and protocols to try to contain some of that chaos. And we send this message to people that don't have a place to live that we expect you to be a criminal, we expect you to behave inappropriately, we expect you to be doing something that's dangerous. And in the process of that, you might inadvertently discriminate against someone or inadvertently prevent yourselves from serving the people that need you the most. Low Barrier Services recognizes that we have created barriers to shelter, the most basic human need that we have. We don't require people to walk through the door without the smell of alcohol in their breath. Anybody else can go out for a drink after work. They can go have a glass of wine with dinner if they're lucky enough to be able to do that, and they still get to go home. And so I think that preventing people from walking through the door simply because they smell like alcohol has been part of the problem for this particular part of the population. So that's why we do harm reduction, that's why we are harm reduction, and the principles of harm reduction guide us.
This is the Gladys Ray Shelter, or as we like to call it, the G-Ray. We're located at 1519 First Avenue South in Fargo. Our hours of operation are 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. daily. We provide low barrier services to individuals in the Fargo-Moorhead community who may be seeking shelter, who have limited or no other options for shelter in this area.
We named the shelter after Gladys Shingo Ray. She had been a tireless advocate throughout our community. She helped start the first of so many things, and it just seemed fitting that we would name it after such an amazing woman who left behind this legacy that has to guide us. If we're going to keep doing the right thing, we have to take advantage of this legacy that she left behind.
So we have the capacity to serve 25 people, 15 men and 10 women is our general goal. This winter we saw upwards of 50, at least 40 consistently throughout the night. It's not that big of a building. It does get kind of challenging to find spots for everyone.
The need for shelter far outweighs how many beds there are in this community at times. So we do stretch our capacity and we try to make sure that as many people have that safe, dignified, respectful place to exist as possible. People, when it comes to like those bare necessities that the people that we serve here are lacking, people don't really understand how far those bare necessities go in an individual's well-being. So it's not just about, wow, that person needs to be able to have a shower so that they can be clean, so that they can go to a job interview or whatever it is. That person is going through something really, really hard already, something very, very traumatic. When you add to the fact that they haven't been able to take a shower in a week, Like, how much harder does that make everything? Not just, oh, they need it for their hygiene and they need it so they can move forward with life, but how much more likely is that individual to get more upset, to get more emotional? Like, sometimes what you see is a lot deeper than the surface level.
I know that the hurtful things that get said about this community, it does do harm to those who stay here. A lot of them have really thick skin, you know, they will still live their life, they'll still keep on smiling. Some of them say they even pray for those people once they hear something.
I know I get very frustrated when I hear the stereotypes that so many people believe about the homeless population. I cannot imagine how terrible the guests feel when they are faced with those stereotypes. It loses the individual when you start believing those stereotypes, and each person experiencing homelessness has a different story. They have a different reason that they are here. Most of them are beyond personal choice and control.
A substantial proportion of the clientele that we serve are Indigenous, and I always hear, like, just go back to where you came from, or go home. And it's like, we are home, you know. And to hear the word homeless itself, it's like, no, this is our home. We're not homeless. This is where we're from. We're actually shelterless or unhoused, but we are on our homelands.
Try to have a conversation with one of the guests at the shelter and not have a good conversation. If you were to spend 2 hours hanging out in the Gladys shelter, you would probably make 10 friends, and they would be the most kind, most accepting, most loyal friends you've ever had in your entire life.
Success can be such a loose term, especially around here. I've been able to celebrate with guests who have been housed. I've helped move a gentleman into housing who spent at least 1.5 years outside. Shelters were too much of a trigger for him. He wasn't able to stay inside with that many people. He camped at the river in the middle of winter in North Dakota, and a couple months ago we got to move him into an apartment, and that was just great. That's a big success. Little successes are sometimes seeing someone and just, hey, you haven't been around the shelter in a while, what's going on? And then they show up that night and they're sleeping inside instead of outside for one night just because they need a break, because you happen to run into them.
I really enjoy knowing my homies and going downtown and seeing them and just like talking to them, seeing how their day's going, and seeing how much seeing me lights up their face, and they're able to talk to me and like express how their day's going or what happened, any great jokes they may have at the time, or, you know, they'll try to make me laugh, and in turn I'll try to make them laugh.
When big or little things happen in each of our lives, you get to celebrate with the people who are closest to you, and the guests a lot of the time get to celebrate with us, and that goes beyond just this job. It's a human connection. It's getting to know the guests individually, and it's supporting them in whatever they need to be supported on.
It really opens the door to a lot of the other things that people might need that, you know, they're more than just the bare necessities. Like, those might be the reasons that the individual is stuck in the situation that they're in to begin with. And it might be a pathway out of the situation that they're in.
Our detox program, we call it withdrawal management because we're trying to support people as they go through the process of reaching sobriety, whether that's at the moment or just as an overall long-term thing.
Our hours of operation are 4 p.m. to 8 a.m., 7 days a week. The services that we provide are that lower level withdrawal management and sort of detoxification from alcohol and drugs, but it's also that foundational level of case management and engagement.
We are specifically harm reduction based as are all our programs. So it's not about sobriety in the traditional sense necessarily. It's about what are your goals? What do you want to function? Do you want to be around your kids more? Do you want to just not black out so that you might be in danger or do dangerous things? And if we start there, then people feel empowered to make decisions that hopefully end up in if not sobriety, a better level of being able to care for themselves and the people that are around them.
You know, I have been asked many times about enabling, and I understand that we're all growing up kind of with this same message in society about abstinence is the only acceptable outcome, and you know, just these really extreme changes that really most people don't make it to. And I think it's becoming more widely accepted that there are many pathways to recovery, and it looks different for everybody. So, you know, I mean, sometimes I let people know, listen, yeah, we do enable them. We enable people to take control of their own lives.
I think a lot of times it's not that they don't want help or they are just complacent with their situation. I think a lot of it is they just have been so abandoned by so many systems that were put into place to protect them that the tragedy is they have just given up kind of on themselves, and sort of maybe the sense that all these other services have failed me, whether it's true or perceived. Coming into this environment and the services that we provide, they know that they're at home and they're welcome and that we are going to serve them the best way we can.
I didn't understand what kind of obstacles people face or how deep this can go and how heavy it is and how much it affects people until I started this work. And you realize how much people are impacted during their lives, and the opportunity to be just a little piece of good in that for people keeps me showing up every day. It's like, you may not be able to help somebody change their life completely, but they had a moment where they felt safe, they had a warm place to go, they have people who care about them.
You know, oftentimes in life, things happen gradually and then suddenly. And too often, either if you're living it in the moment, you think this is never going to end and I'm never going to overcome this, which isn't true, or the opposite, this could never happen to me. And so many people in their life have said that to themselves, but almost everyone at any time when they came into this building, I think at one point they had that thought. And just to be mindful of that life is uncertain and things happen that are unexpected. And I think if we just kept more of that in mind, the world would be so much more of a compassionate and empathetic place.
We're located at the Downtown Engagement Center, which we refer to as the DEC.
A day in the life at the Downtown Engagement Center is never the same. We provide basic services like showers, lockers, laundry. Lockers are a huge deal for our guests. In the winter, typically, our guests would have to get rid of some of their winter gear, some of their big coats and overalls. Now we can have lockers here where people can store their stuff in the summer and reuse it again in the winter. It also is huge because people can then go to interviews, they can go to appointments, they don't have to worry about their items getting stolen, they can just focus on getting their things done.
We feel that the DEC is important for the community because it is a central place where people can come and try to connect to other services.
On site, we have a variety of different community partners who office out of here full time. And so really trying to meet people where they're at with the services that they need to just reduce the amount of barriers that they face in accessing those things.
The Downtown Engagement Center is busier than I ever expected it to be. Providing one single place where people can go to take care of the most basic of needs, especially when there isn't enough shelter beds to really meet the need of everyone.
Part of why the engagement center is located downtown where it is because this is where the population we serve is. They were here first and we came to them. And I think the reality is if we weren't here, we serve about 83 guests per day. That would mean that they would need to find somewhere else to be. And so if we're trying to create an environment in downtown where everybody feels welcome and everybody has a place to be, it's really important for the engagement center to be here meeting the need of that specific population of people so that everybody has a place where they can exist and build community.
If it's hot outside, they can come in and cool off, use a restroom, have something to drink. Maybe we have a snack. In the winter, we've had a ton of people coming in to try to stay warm and have a hot cup of coffee, maybe watch TV. And again, just doing that gives us the ability to build those relationships with people to try to get them connected to the services they need.
Relationship is very important because that's how, trust is established. You guys get to know each other, even sharing your culture, your background. The first day I started working here, there was a guy that, he had a language barrier, and he was Liberian because I'm Liberian as well. So it was kind of hard for them to understand him, but I understood him, and I was able to help him. Having cultural competence in a workplace is very important.
To me, engagement in what I do every day is just trying to build a relationship with somebody and getting to know who they are, what they need. When they open up and share intimate details of their life just so that we can get to know who they are and help them move on to what they're looking for, there are no words. And it's not about us feeling good, it's about them and seeing them change.
Chronic homelessness is defined as an individual who has a disability, who has been living unsheltered or somewhere not meant for human habitation for 12 consecutive months. Homelessness is often viewed as a choice, and I believe homelessness is a consequence of mental health, trauma, poor policymaking, barriers in the system. I don't think any one of our guests would ever choose to be homeless in their life.
A lot of us have taken for granted having the ability to have a stable place to grow up, having the car, going to college, having the jobs and all the things. I feel lucky that we didn't have traumas that some of the individuals that we work with have had that threw them off. It's not a pull it up by the bootstraps kind of thing. Everybody deals with something differently. Any kind of trauma, even if a mother dies or a child dies, whatever the trauma can be, everybody is going to deal with that differently because no one person is the same. So we have one individual, they were told that they have come up for housing and they cried. As we completed the application, they cried. And being a part of that, it's amazing.
This is the Harm Reduction Center. It's the HRC. We are an SSP, a syringe service program located in downtown Fargo. Our goal is to provide low barrier services to anybody that needs us. One of the best things about this program is we are located in kind of a tucked away area of downtown Fargo. If you don't know where we're at, you probably won't know where we're at. But the great thing about that is the folks that do need us know exactly where we are, and that's how we like it.
North Dakota is fortunate to have syringe service programs throughout the state. Individuals come in and are looking for assistance, right? Or needing help, or just wanting to talk about what's going on in their life. But in the end of the day, really aiming towards we want to do things safer and healthier.
I started in this position in December 2019. We had about 700 people signed up at that time. We had people that would drive 3 hours to get clean syringes from us, whether that was for substance use, in vitro fertilization, or whether that was somebody that was doing hormone replacement therapy and they couldn't get the syringe that they needed for their testosterone or the estrogen that they were using. And we really just try to be that resource for every individual in town, whether they need a clean syringe or they need to dispose of a used syringe.
We always want to empower the individuals coming in. So the more knowledge they have, the safer they can be. So an individual would come in, complete an intake. Part of that intake, we'd have to collect some demographic information. Everything's anonymous.
So the way we operate is we give out codes. So that provides a little bit of anonymity when folks come in, whether it's the first time or the 100th time they came in. There's folks that don't know their name, right? And I think for when we do have individuals that come in and that they're a little bit anxious or they might be paranoid because this is a city program and public health and all that stuff, I tell folks, I don't even know your name, man. And they, at that moment, you can kind of see on their face like, oh yeah, you don't. Like, I just know whatever you told me. I tell folks, you could tell me your name is Mickey Mouse and I'll put MM on the sheet. As long as we're able to give you what you need in that moment, whether it's harm reduction supplies, whether that's Narcan, whether that's just HIV, Hep C education or harm reduction education, that's what we're gonna do.
I think that one of the surprises for me in my role was that we were able to put together the syringe service program as quickly as we did. We knew in our community that many people were struggling with substance use. We knew that some of that substance use led to exposure to a number of different things such as HIV and Hep C. And we know that in order to get people into treatment or in order to help people get beyond their use, they have to survive their use. And we've seen that become more and more complicated over time. And I'm so grateful that in our community we have a service, we have a place for people to go where they can get the things that they need to stay safe. Until as a nation we figure it out, until as a state we figure it out, we have to make sure people are as safe as possible and that they're alive to see what it looks like when we finally figure it out.
We see the whole gambit, every race, every age, every culture, you name it. Sometimes my car is the worst car in the parking lot, and there's a lot of individuals that you wouldn't think use drugs intravenously, but they do. And that's just the avenue that they take to alter their reality, however it may be. And whether it's the richest of the rich or the poorest of the poor, addiction doesn't discriminate, and we try to be there for everyone that needs us. You know, I think in this line of work, it's the little victories that keep you coming back. Whether that's somebody that you've known that's been living on the street for years getting housed, whether, you know, just a couple weeks ago we had a guy come in and we had our normal encounter. Hey, how you doing? How's everything going? What can I get you today? And he said, actually, I'm good. I've been clean for 60 days. I just wanted to come and say thank you. And if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't have known of the resources and the ways that I could get clean on my terms. And that's really all it was. He came in, gave us a high five, went about his business, and you know, we haven't seen him since. So a lot of times that's a good thing. I think we have a lot of encounters like that where sometimes people just need a hand up, not a hand out. And if we're able to provide that, whether it's here at the HRC, the Downtown Engagement Center, wherever it may be, we're gonna do that. I tell folks all the time, we work for public health. We're here for the health of the community. And whether folks like it or not, drug users and people living on the streets and all these marginalized individuals are a part of our community. So we're really just trying to be that lighthouse downtown where if folks need us, they know where we're at, we can help with whatever they need, and really just try to be there for individuals.
Street outreach and mobile outreach are hand in hand. So street outreach was first designed and then mobile outreach came along. Mobile outreach is a retired police vehicle, and when they are not responding to calls that are related to substance, they are on foot. They're connecting with people, they're connecting to different resources. So when they do come across someone that may need, go to the hospital, then we have an easier way to connect them to that resource because we know them.
So I think street outreach is important and valuable because if people don't want to come into a building that they don't know anyone at, they're not going to come in. So they're just going to hang around wherever they've been hanging and probably be stuck in that situation for a while. But, if me or somebody else is out there and we can talk to them and find out what they need and build a relationship and see, okay, this isn't just like a setup. We're really trying to help you and figure out what you need to be successful.
Hey guys. Hey, you doing okay? You good? Yeah? They should be serving at Sally's here in like an hour.
So to build trust with homies can be very difficult. I mean, a lot of our clients have gone through very traumatic things in their lives. So it's just being consistent and checking in with them, showing your face every day, bringing a bottle of water, bringing a sandwich. I mean, anything really that shows them that you genuinely care.
Having mobile outreach in this community is absolutely huge. We run from 9 a.m. to midnight. We take so much stress and burden off of, FPD and FM ambulance on responding to calls that are substance use related. We really take that burden off of them so they can focus on doing their job and the important things that they're doing while we can build a connection and get these people out of their situation so FM ambulance and FPD are no longer receiving calls on them.
We have to make sure that we're providing services based on what people tell us that they need because they know what they need. They don't always know what's available and they don't always trust that that's what we want to do is help. But through enough conversations and really listening to what people identify as the next step for them, that trust comes, the relationship piece comes, and we know relationships ultimately are what motivate people's behavior.
We meet new people every day, and a lot of times we are the first person from an actual agency that they're connecting with. There have just been a number of times where we meet somebody and through us outreaching them and building a relationship with them, over the course of, weeks and months, we're able to see a transformation in these people and see them get housed and maybe start a job and really become independent again.
I think this program means a lot to people. You could be walking downtown and someone could be having a really hard day and just people walk by all the time, and it'd be like if you or I were just not talking to a single person at all and you didn't know where to go, you didn't know anybody. So actually having someone stop you and just say, hey, can I help you? People might not know it in that moment of time, but that's one less question that they have to think about that night because it's just as easy as just a conversation.
The circumstances in which people find themselves without a home can happen to anyone at any time. So, instead of just walking by them and kind of, brushing them off or ignoring them, just think about if that was your sister, your mom, your brother sitting there, how would you want other people to look at them? How would you want people to react to them? They're not bad people. They are just at a bad situation right now. I love my homies. They are some of the funniest and most charismatic people you will ever meet. If I can be a little bit more kinder to them, I think that makes all the difference. And I wish, everybody would think that way. Because nobody deserves to be homeless. Nobody deserves to live on the streets with no home. Regardless if you have mental health, substance use, any of it, everybody deserves a home.
Homelessness is completely different than the next person. It's like this intersection of social, political, and personal factors that crash in one place, and how that looks after that crash is very different for everybody. So I think the future of the Harm Reduction Division and all of our programs, in some ways we want to work ourselves out of certain jobs, and in other ways we really want to be able to transition to prevention. And I can't wait until we're not just reacting to homelessness. I can't wait until we're preventing it. I believe that the Harm Reduction Division is a huge part of preventing that in our community, and that things will look pretty different, and it's not going to take us that long to get there.